They say love is for the young, that sparks fade, that it's too late to begin again once your hair turns silver and the house grows quiet. But what if they're wrong? What if the love that comes after 60 isn't weaker, but wiser? Not faster, but deeper? Not a fairy tale, but a refuge. You see, after a certain age, we stop searching for fireworks. We crave warmth. We no longer want someone to complete us. We want someone who won't disturb the peace we spent a lifetime building. And that kind of love is rare, but real. If you're watching this, chances are you've already lived through the full spectrum of love, young and foolish, hard-earned and hopeful, painful and pure. Maybe you've been widowed, maybe you've been divorced, or maybe you've simply lived alone for so long that the silence has started to feel like a second skin. But somewhere inside you, there's still a longing, not for fantasy, but for companionship, for a partner who doesn't want to rewrite your story, but simply to read the remaining chapters with you, one slow, meaningful page at a time. Still, as beautiful as that sounds, the decision to remarry after 60 is far from simple. Because this time, it's not just about love, it's about legacy, about protecting your peace, about making sure the home you built emotionally, financially, spiritually, is not undone by one misstep of the heart. Today, we'll uncover 5 life-changing truths about remarrying after 60, truths that could save your savings, your relationships, and your sense of self. We'll walk through real-life stories, some heartwarming, others heartbreaking. You'll hear from people just like you, people who took a chance on love again, and either found peace or pain. But through every chapter, you'll gain the clarity you need to make the best decision for your life. Because here's the thing, remarriage at this stage is not about completing a checklist. It's not about what society expects, or what loneliness whispers on sleepless nights. It's about something far more sacred, choosing your next steps with full awareness, deep honesty, and unwavering self-respect. So stay with us until the very end. Don't click away too soon, because one sentence, one truth, might just save you from a mistake that could cost you years of peace. And more importantly, it might open the door to a kind of love that fits who you are now, not who you used to be. This is Daily Elder Advice, where growing older doesn't mean fading out. It means stepping into your wisdom, your power, and your worth with clarity, confidence, and heart. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Love doesn't pay the bills. The financial realities of remarrying after 60. Remarrying after the age of 60 may seem like an emotional decision, but in reality, it's also a major financial one. Most older adults don't realize that marriage at this stage doesn't just affect companionship. It reshapes their entire financial landscape. From Social Security benefits to pensions, estate plans, healthcare costs, and inheritance laws, remarriage can trigger a domino effect of financial consequences that few anticipate until it's too late. For instance, if you're receiving Social Security based on a former spouse's work record, remarrying might cancel those benefits entirely. Pension plans may have specific clauses that terminate survivor payments upon remarriage. Even if you spent decades building your own retirement savings, tying your life legally to someone else can open the door to shared debt liability, unintended tax changes, and state laws that can override your personal wishes regarding property and wealth. Financially, love has a price tag, and it often appears in the fine print. Real-life story: Robert and the unexpected cost of love. Robert was 72 when he found love again. After losing his wife of 41 years to cancer, he spent a decade alone, quietly navigating retirement and caring for his grandchildren. But then he met Clara, a lively, widowed art teacher who brought laughter back into his mornings. They bonded over poetry readings and Sunday farmers markets. And within a year, Robert proposed. He thought he had covered all his bases. They agreed to keep separate bank accounts and didn't plan on combining assets. But no one told him that his decision to remarry would override certain legal arrangements he had made with his children years earlier. 6 months after the wedding, Robert was stunned to learn that his Social Security benefits, received under his late wife's record, would be cut. Worse, he discovered that Clara now had legal claim to his home, despite his will stating it should go to his kids. His adult children, once close and understanding, became distant, confused, and quietly resentful. Robert didn't regret finding love. but he deeply regretted not having the financial conversation before saying, "I do." He spent the next year working with a financial planner and estate attorney, trying to untangle the legal consequences he hadn't foreseen, all while trying to mend the emotional fallout with his family. Robert's story is not uncommon, and yet, it's rarely talked about. That's because we often feel uncomfortable mixing love with money. We don't want to taint romance with legal paperwork. We fear that bringing up finances will kill the magic. But at this age, avoiding that conversation can cost you everything you spent a lifetime building. The truth is, financial conversations are acts of love. They protect both people's independence and legacy. Remarriage after 60 isn't just a personal decision. It's a legal restructuring of your financial future. Many seniors come into new relationships with very different financial realities. One may have a pension, while the other may have debt. One may rely on Social Security benefits from a deceased spouse, while the other has independent wealth. Blending these lives without clear boundaries can lead to resentment, confusion, or even legal battles between your new spouse and your children. Estate planning is particularly sensitive. Some assume they can leave everything to their children as before, but marriage automatically grants spouses certain legal rights, often overriding previous wills. Without prenuptial agreements, trusts, or updated legal documents, your intentions may not hold up. It's not about mistrust, it's about maturity. It's not about planning for failure. It's about protecting peace, your own, and your family's. Love in later life is a beautiful gift, but it should never come at the cost of your financial stability or your children's future. If you're thinking about remarrying, have the uncomfortable conversations before the wedding, not after. Sit down with a financial advisor. Review your Social Security benefits. Talk to an estate attorney. Create or update your will. Consider a prenuptial agreement, not as a sign of distrust, but as a sign of respect for everything both of you have built on your own. Remember, love is not about avoiding hard conversations. It's about walking into them, hand in hand, with honesty and care. Because true love doesn't just warm the heart, it protects the home you've already built. If this chapter opened your eyes to the real financial consequences of remarriage, drop a comment with the number 1. Your thoughts help us understand what matters most to you, and they might help someone else who's facing the same decision. Chapter 2. When families collide: the hidden dynamics of blending after 60. Love might bring two people together, but it's family that tests the strength of that bond. When you decide to remarry in your later years, it's not just your heart on the line, it's your adult children's trust, your grandchildren's sense of routine, your late spouse's memory, even your holiday traditions, inheritance expectations, and emotional history. All of it comes into play. Unlike young couples who start from scratch, seniors bring decades of established relationships into a new marriage. And those relationships, however loving, don't always blend smoothly. Your children might smile politely but carry a storm of unspoken feelings. Your grandchildren might grow distant without quite understanding why. Even your new spouse's family might question your presence, your intentions, or your place in long-held family structures. And sometimes, it's not even about money. It's about loyalty, to a parent who passed away, to the way things used to be, to the fear of losing what little stability remains. It's hard for your children to see you as someone starting over when, in their minds, your story was already written. That's why remarriage after 60 isn't just a romantic shift, it's a relational earthquake. And unless you're willing to communicate with patience, transparency, and compassion, it may shake more than just your marriage. Real-life story: Susan and the unexpected resistance. Susan, 68, was a retired nurse, a widow for over a decade. Her 2 adult children were thriving, and she had 3 grandchildren who visited her every Sunday like clockwork. Life was quiet, predictable, and full of small joys until she met Martin. Martin was thoughtful, well-traveled, and equally cautious with his heart. Their love grew slowly, maturely, and deeply. When Susan told her children she was planning to remarry, she expected hugs. What she received instead was silence. Her daughter asked, "What happens to the house if something happens to you?" Her son asked, "Will Martin get a say in your will?" Her youngest granddaughter simply stopped coming over. Susan was stunned. She had imagined gaining love, not losing connection. But as she sat down with her children, what emerged was not greed, it was fear. Fear that her life would change. Fear that Martin would replace their father. Fear that the center of their emotional home was shifting. It took months of open, often difficult conversations for the family to restabilize. Susan involved her children in the legal process, reassured them about inheritance, and maintained long-held family traditions, even while building a new life with Martin. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. According to a 2021 study published in the Journal of Marriage and Family, adult children often experience ambiguous grief when a parent remarries after widowhood. It's not that they wish their parent unhappiness, but the remarriage represents a symbolic loss of the original family, of emotional security, and of unspoken expectations. Psychologists also note that step-family formation later in life, especially when all parties are grown, can be more complex than in younger blended families. There are entrenched loyalties, unresolved grief, and less incentive for adult children to bond with a new step-parent. Unlike in childhood, where relationships are still forming, adult family dynamics are fixed, and a new figure can feel intrusive, even if unintentionally so. What's the solution? Open, early, and repeated communication. Researchers emphasize that seniors who take time to discuss remarriage with their children, validate their emotions, and establish clear expectations tend to report stronger family cohesion after the wedding. Remarrying after 60 is not just about you. It's about the people who have shared your life until now. While their approval isn't required, their understanding can be a priceless gift. Don't assume they'll be happy just because you are. Talk to them, involve them, reassure them, set boundaries, but leave the door open for honest dialogue. Because the love you're building with your new partner should not destroy the love you've spent decades nurturing with your family. It might take time, it might take uncomfortable conversations, but the reward, a family that supports your joy instead of fearing it, is more than worth it. If you agree with the message of this chapter, or you've experienced something similar in your own family, comment the number 2 below. We'd love to know which part resonated most with you and how your journey with love and family unfolded. Chapter 3: Companionship versus Completion. What you really want in love now. By the time you reach your 60s or 70s, you've likely spent years shaping a life that fits you. You have your routines, your way of making coffee, your favorite news program, your afternoon walk. You have independence, habits, and a home that reflects who you are. So when someone new enters your life, even with love, it's not just about adding romance. It's about adjusting your rhythm. Many people underestimate this. They believe remarriage is simply about finding someone to share dinner with. But real companionship, true, enduring connection, requires more than shared meals. It requires emotional maturity, patience, and a shared understanding of what happiness looks like now, not what it used to be decades ago. That's why it's so important to ask, what do I really want from a partner at this stage of life? Is it constant closeness or emotional space? Do I want to live together or maintain separate homes? Do I want someone to travel the world with or someone to sit beside me in silence? There's no right answer, but there is a wrong assumption, and that is thinking that marriage will complete you. Because the truth is, if you're not fulfilled on your own, no relationship can fix that. Real-life story: Harold and the Weight of Comparison. Harold was 75, a retired professor, widowed for 5 years. His late wife, Margaret, had been the love of his life. They'd grown up together, raised children, and grown old hand in hand. Her passing left a quiet void, but he had found peace in gardening, reading, and volunteering at the library. Then came Diane, bold, kind-hearted, fiercely independent. She had been divorced for over 2 decades and was used to living life on her terms. Their connection was instant: deep talks, shared interests, and gentle affection. 6 months in, they married. But Harold quickly realized this was not Margaret. Diane valued her solitude. She didn't want him in her space every hour of the day. She preferred separate bedrooms. She didn't cook, she didn't garden, and she hated classical music. At first, Harold tried to mold their life into the shape of his first marriage. He made tea the way Margaret liked it. He tried to recreate old traditions. But Diane wasn't Margaret, and she didn't want to be. It took time and a few painful arguments for Harold to stop comparing, to stop expecting, and to start discovering who Diane really was. Slowly, He began to appreciate a new kind of relationship, not one built on history, but on present moment peace. He learned that love in later life is not about replicating the past. It's about embracing what is. Later life relationships are shaped by something psychologists call autonomous intimacy. Unlike younger couples who often merge their lives from scratch, seniors tend to enter relationships with strong personal identities, routines, and boundaries already formed. This creates a unique tension: the desire for closeness versus the need for independence. Research from the Journal of Gerontological Psychology shows that seniors who define their relationships around companionship, not dependency, report higher satisfaction and lower levels of conflict. In other words, relationships that allow for personal space and flexibility tend to thrive. Another key finding: unresolved grief from past relationships often lingers into new ones. People may unconsciously compare their current partner with a lost spouse, creating unrealistic expectations and emotional distance. Counseling professionals recommend addressing these internal dynamics before or early in remarriage to avoid projecting the past onto the present. Love after 60 isn't about recreating what once was. It's about redefining what joy looks like now. If you're entering a new relationship thinking it will complete you, take a step back. Ask yourself, am I content with who I am right now? Or am I hoping someone else will fill a void I haven't made peace with? Because real love at this age isn't about possession, it's about presence. It's about finding someone who doesn't interrupt your peace but sits gently beside it. Someone who sees your independence not as a threat, but as a gift. Someone who doesn't try to become your past, but helps you write a peaceful, meaningful future. If this chapter resonated with you, if you believe love now is about companionship, not completion, drop a comment with the number 3. Let us know what companionship means to you in this season of life. Your voice matters here. Chapter 4: Legal Landmines: What the Marriage Contract Really Means After 60. Love is emotional, marriage is legal. That's a truth we often forget, especially when our hearts are full and hopeful again. But remarriage after 60 is not just about feelings. It's about paperwork, property rights, medical decisions, and the law. At this age, most people already have a life built behind them: a will, a home, a list of emergency contacts. Sometimes adult children expecting to inherit what you've worked for. One new signature, your marriage certificate, can quietly override all of that. The idea might feel unromantic, but ignoring it is what leads to heartbreak, legal battles, and broken families. And too often, older adults find this out not in courtrooms, but in hospital rooms, when decisions must be made quickly and legally, not emotionally. That's why you must treat remarriage like what it is: a contract. Not because you don't trust the person you love, but because you trust yourself enough to protect what matters. Real-life story: Eleanor and the Power of a Prenup. Eleanor, 67, was smart with money and generous with love. A retired businesswoman, she had raised 2 children alone after her divorce and built a modest but solid estate, including a lakeside cabin she hoped to pass down to her grandkids. Then she met David, a kind-hearted widower with a passion for photography. They fell in love slowly and intentionally. When David proposed, Eleanor said yes, with one important condition: they would meet with a lawyer. Together, they drafted a prenuptial agreement, not to draw lines of mistrust, but to preserve clarity and peace. The document ensured her children would inherit her cabin, outlined how their joint expenses would be handled, and made clear that neither would assume the other's financial debts. David also updated his will and set up a living trust for his daughter. Some friends called it cold, but Eleanor called it freedom. She didn't marry to protect her assets. She protected her assets so that she could marry without fear. And their relationship flourished because everything that mattered was already understood and respected. According to data from the American Academy of Matrimonial Lawyers, prenuptial agreements among people over 60 have increased by more than 45% in the past decade. Why? Because older adults bring more into a marriage: assets, debt, family expectations, and future healthcare considerations. Legal experts emphasize that many seniors assume their wills will protect their intentions. But in many U.S. states, once you remarry, a new spouse is legally entitled to a portion of your estate, sometimes even if your will says otherwise. State laws often override older estate plans if not updated after a marriage. Medical authority is another area where laws can quietly take over. Without setting up a healthcare proxy or advance directive, your new spouse may legally gain the right to make life or death decisions, even if your children or siblings believe differently. The bottom line, love doesn't erase legal reality. Only preparation does. If you're planning to remarry, don't let love blind you to legality. Talk to a lawyer, update your will, consider a prenuptial agreement, set medical directives, review your insurance policies and property rights. These aren't signs of mistrust, they're signs of wisdom. You spent decades building your life. Don't risk unraveling it with one signature. Love deserves clarity, and so do you. If you agree that legal preparation is part of mature love, drop a comment with the number 4. Your voice could help another senior protect their legacy and enter marriage with both heart and mind fully open. Chapter 5. Redefining happiness. Are you chasing connection or escaping loneliness? At some point in later life, a quiet question begins to whisper in your mind. Is this enough? Is the silence in the house something you enjoy or something you endure? Is your solitude peaceful, or does it sometimes feel like a weight you never asked to carry? Do you want a partner, or do you just want to feel less alone? These are not easy questions, but they are essential ones. Because at this age, the line between seeking connection and escaping loneliness can be incredibly thin and dangerously easy to ignore. Many older adults believe that getting married again will automatically bring happiness. But the truth is, happiness after 60 is different. It's not about building something new. It's about protecting what you've already built, your rhythm, your boundaries, your freedom, and your peace of mind. And sometimes, we rush into companionship not because we're truly ready, but because we fear the alternative. The quiet, the mirror, the ache of absence. But marriage isn't a cure for loneliness. In fact, the wrong marriage can make loneliness feel even louder. Studies from the Journal of Aging and Mental Health show that many seniors confuse social isolation with emotional loneliness. You can be surrounded by people and still feel deeply alone, or live alone and feel entirely whole. The key lies in the quality of connection, not its quantity. Researchers also warn that impulsive decisions made from emotional vulnerability, especially after widowhood or major life changes, can lead to regret. Relationships that begin as a response to grief or fear of being alone tend to have lower long-term satisfaction. That's why mental health experts recommend a waiting period after major losses before entering new relationships. This gives the individual time to stabilize emotionally, rediscover personal joy, and enter new connections from a place of wholeness, not from need. Before you say, "I do," again, pause and ask yourself, what does happiness look like for me now? Not 20 years ago, not when the kids were young, not when you had someone beside you every night, but now, today, with the life you've built and the wisdom you've earned. Because true happiness isn't found in another person, it's found in clarity. In knowing what fills you up, what grounds you, what lights your spirit. If someone can walk beside you in that truth, then yes, remarry. But if you're hoping they'll fix something that still feels broken inside, maybe the healing must begin with you first. Love can be a beautiful addition to your life, but it should never be a substitute for your peace. If you believe that happiness after 60 starts from within, not from someone else, drop a comment with the number 5. Your reflection might help someone make the most important decision of their later life with clarity and courage. Now that we've walked through these 5 powerful truths about finances, family, emotional readiness, legal realities, and the true meaning of happiness, it's clear that remarrying after 60 isn't about rewriting your past. It's about choosing your future with open eyes and a steady heart. At this age, love isn't about fixing what's broken or escaping loneliness. It's about honoring the life you've already built and choosing someone who respects that life, not replaces it. Whether you decide to remarry, live independently, or find companionship in a different way, the most important thing is that the decision comes from a place of peace, not pressure. You deserve clarity, not confusion. You deserve freedom, not fear. If today's video touched something in you, we'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment with the number of the chapter that resonated most, 1 through 5, and share a thought, a story, or even a simple "that's me." Your comment might be the encouragement someone else needs today. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Daily Elder Advice for more conversations like this, because growing older isn't the end of your story. It's the moment you finally get to write it your way.